welcome to my channel, and I will have links below to everything that you will need for this tutorial, but be sure and read the instructions on everything you do buy. This glue stick is what I recommend using, but I do recommend reading the instructions before you do so. Next thing you will need is some nice watercolors. You can use any cheap brand from Michaels or whatever you have on hand. I just used what I have on hand, and these are the Artist Loft brand. You will also need a little paper towel or microfiber to dab off your brush in between when using watercolors, as well as the shape of whatever post-it note you want to make. I happened to cut out a mushroom shape, but you can cut out whatever shape you like. This was just my personal preference because I love mushrooms. For this part, you just want to make sure that you're saturating your watercolors, and you want to have a little reservoir of water by your desk with enough water, and you want to make sure that you're dabbing off your brush so that you're not using too much water when applying it to the actual paper so you don't get warping and fraying. But you do want to add enough water that you get a really good saturation of color going, because the more water you use, the lighter the color will be, and the less water you use, the darker the color will be. And with watercolors, it always dries lighter than it initially looks, so just always keep that in mind. But like I said, you don't want to add so much water that you make your paper warp. For this, I'm just adding some pink, but really that's up to personal preference. You can add whatever colors you want, and you can actually use whatever mediums you want. You don't have to necessarily use watercolors. There's lots of other mediums you can use, and I will go into that further down in the video. But for this, I'm just applying the colors, and I'm just kind of applying them however I like them in a kind of random fashion, and I'm just using a darker watercolor to line the outside. But like I said, it has to do with personal preference, so you can just use whatever you like to do or create a nice funky and fun design. So just keep in mind that you're going to be writing on the mushroom part as it is a post-it note, so you want to make sure that you're not picking a color that's too dark that you wouldn't be able to see through it, so it's actually functional as a post-it note. Unless you're planning on doing a really dark color, then you know that you're going to have to use a white pen or whatever, but I plan on using regular pens for this, so I'm just using a watercolor. Yeah, and watercolors are water reactive, so you also want to make sure that if you do a watercolor technique like I'm doing here, that you choose a specific type of pen that will work well with it and won't smudge or run because of the fact that you're using watercolors. Now I'm just adding a pattern down there to my little, like, I don't know, is that like a little mushroom stump? But since I'm not planning on writing notes on the actual little stump part, I decided to just add like a funky little pattern. But you guys can do whatever you want to do to it. You can even like doodle on it or whatnot. You're gonna notice that I'm dabbing off the mushroom on the paper just to get any excess water or watercolors off of it. And these are the rest of the mushrooms that I cut out for the post-it note. You can cut out as many as you would like to use, as thick as you want to have, or as many as you want to have. But I just cut these many out just for the sake of the video. And I didn't want it to be too thick since I am using 100-pound cardstock. So just keep that in mind. But if you were going to use thinner cardstock, then I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you use watercolors, because it's just a little too heavy in water, and it'll probably end up tearing your paper, so just keep that in mind. But you will see a different technique that I will use in case you don't have watercolors or you don't want to use watercolors, which is fine too. And right now I'm just doing the same technique on a different paper to create a different type of design. So I'm repeating the same steps that I did before on the first mushroom, except I'm using different colors just to show you that you can get a bunch of different variations depending on what you want to do. For this mushroom, I'm just adding some little droplets of purple color, trying to be careful not to make it too dark. But when you dab off, it kind of takes a little bit of the color off, which also helps so that it's not too dark. So that's kind of like a little trick. And yeah, that's pretty much, I'm keeping it pretty simple. And then I'm going to do one more for you guys just to give you another idea of how you can do it. And for this one, I'm just painting the little stump of my mushroom gray, and then I'm going to be painting the little cap part purple. And I'm going to keep that purple quite light because I want to be able to write on it with a regular pen. So now that I went ahead and dried off that little mushroom, I just went and decided to add a little bit of detail, which you can do, and just to make it a little bit more unique and funky, I'm using my Signo Uniball pen in white, and I'm just adding some faux stitches all around the little mushroom cap. And I just think that adds a fun little cute detail. So keep in mind that you can be really creative with this and do all kinds of designs, which is really fun. And it's just a great way to just make it funky. And this pen works really well on any surfaces because it's kind of like the best white pen ever, so I do recommend it, but you could also use acrylic paint or whatever you have in your stash. Now I'm just following the steps that it said on the glue stick. You're supposed to add at least 2 layers of it, and you're going to be able to see it even though you don't see it that well on camera. You're going to want to make sure to put an even amount, but not too much because you don't want it leaving residue behind, and you're going to want this to dry for approximately 90 seconds is what it says on the package, but I would even give it a little bit longer than that just to make sure that it's not going to leave any residue or tear any paper. And when I did this, I actually didn't have it leave any residue or tear any paper thus far, so I've had really good results with this glue stick, which is why I recommend it. The next thing we're going to be doing is doing an alternative version to this by using some Copic markers. Now you can use whatever markers you have in your stash, but I'm using my Copics because I love them and they're alcohol based, so they work great and they don't leave any streaking. There are alternatives to using Copic markers like Spectrum Noirs or Chameleon pens, but these are the ones that I have and that I've used, so I know that they work great. But I will leave links below in the description box to any other brands that I think you guys might be able to get or enjoy if you can't get Copic markers. I'm using a lavender and a mint color for this little mushroom, and I'm just adding small little details here and there. And with Copic markers, you really want to make sure and just work quickly when you're covering the mushroom in the color just so that you get less streaking, because as it dries you will notice there's less streaking, which is what you get when you use alcohol markers in general, so that's one of the great things about using those. But even if you just have some cheap markers at home or whatever, you could still totally use those and just see how it looks and if you like the way that it looks. So just don't limit yourself to what you have in your stash. Another great way to add detail and personality to your little mushrooms is to bring out the washi tape and use it on the stems, or you could even cover the whole mushroom in it if you didn't want to do any coloring at all. I ended up changing the washi tape I originally was going to use on it, but I know that most of us have washi tapes in our stash, so it's just a great way to add details to things, and you can just layer them, you can add whatever colors you want, and it's a great way to just make it a little different. And you can write on washi, so if you did want to cover the whole mushroom in washi, that could totally be something you do. I added some pen details and little loops on the outside, and these are all 3 mushrooms I did using different mediums, so really the only limit is your imagination, guys. Now I'm just layering the mushrooms on top of each other. These are the ones that I let dry for approximately a little bit longer than 90 seconds, I'd say like a minute or two. And I'm just layering them one on top of another, making sure that they're just lined up and meeting up correctly, and then you're just going to want to add some light pressure to them. And I did only add the glue to the cap part, not to the little trunk or stump. So I just did that because I was following after other post-it notes that I've seen that usually they leave one area that isn't covered in glue, and it makes it a little easier for you to grab each single one. So I would definitely recommend that if you do any sort of shape, that you leave a certain area without any glue so that you can kind of pull at that one area. Now I'm just layering the rest of my little mushrooms, and I'm just doing it from the back to the front, but you can do it whichever way, either way it works, and just make sure that they are lined up and you're stacking them in the order that you want to use them in, whatever order that may be. For me, I really didn't care, other than wanting to put the little yellow one that I did in front because I just really love the way that one turned out. They all turned out really cute, but that one just happened to be my favorite, and I really liked the way that the washi tape looks on a little stump. I think it gives it a little extra something. So, and in case you're wondering, I did cut this shape out with my Cameo. If you don't know what a Cameo is, it's a machine that cuts out shapes, so basically that's how I did this shape. But you could use a paper punch, you could even trace a stencil or a shape, and you could definitely make that same type of shape by doing it that way. It's just going to take a little bit more effort. So now I'm just adding my little post-it notes to my dashboard, and they look super cute if I do say so myself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe and comment down below and let me know what else you guys would like to see, or if you have any questions. I really enjoyed doing this video for you guys, and if you decide to make your own post-it notes, be sure to tag me on social media. I have all the links to my accounts down below: Instagram, Facebook, yada yada yada. Like I said, thank you so much for watching, you guys. I will see you again soon. Bye!